fifth graders. So let's look at our RWW vocabulary strategy work with Latin roots. And we've been working on roots, but there is a focus this week in our story for Latin roots, and we're going to encounter Latin roots on Friday's Wonders test. And of course, there will be tons of questions about Greek and Latin roots on the S box, so we're getting ourselves ready. Yesterday we focused on trans, which means across, and we learned trans before. But today let's look at the Latin root sensus or sense, which means perceive or feel. You may know words that have sense or sensus in them. In our text, it's on page 210, sensitive. So let's look a little bit closely here. The Latin root sensus or sense means to feel or to perceive. Now, what does perceive mean? To perceive means to become aware of something. So if you perceive that something is happening, you have like an inclination or a clue, you're aware that something may happen. So what does sensitive mean? And sensitive actually has a lot of meanings, but let's look at how it's used in our text. On page 210, and I have a little screenshot of it here. In our text on page 210 in the Gulf, the oil spill text that we're reading, this is where it's located. I'll read it for you and we'll think about what it means. Pilots and their crews flew over the Gulf region in helicopters and planes. Some studied how the oil slick moved from place to place. Others directed the placement of floating barriers to protect sensitive areas. Some crews transferred needed supplies back and forth between land and sea. What does it mean if crews were directing and placing the floating barriers to protect sensitive areas? So it has something to do with feeling, right? Feeling of something. So if an area is sensitive, then maybe it is, it needs to be protected. It needs, something has to, it's sensitive, or meaning it's vulnerable to getting damaged. Let's say if you get a cut, you accidentally cut yourself on your arm and you have a wound, that area is sensitive. So it's going to be sensitive to the touch. Like if you touch it, it hurts. If you, when you take a shower and water gets in there, it's going to hurt. So it's sensitive, right? It needs some extra protection because if there's feeling there, right? So if something is sensitive, it's easily affected or damaged by something such as substance or temperature. So in this case, this area of the Gulf had the oil slick moving around. So they were trying to protect the area, the sensitive areas, with floating barriers. Some type of barrier so that oil doesn't get in there, because they're trying to prevent the oil from going everywhere. It was already a mile deep and going in all areas. So they're trying to just at least get it, protect it from not going to more sensitive areas. So sensitive can mean a lot of things. It can mean, like if a person is sensitive, that means they can easily be affected by a situation. They have strong feelings about something. Like if someone's sensitive, maybe they cry a little bit more, or they have feelings about something, right? Maybe their heart can be broken or hurt or affected more easily. I talked about how a cut, if you have a cut on your arm or something, that area is sensitive, right? So sensitive can mean lots of different things, but it's all having to do with something with feeling and perceiving of something, being aware of something, or it's easily affected, okay? So answer some questions now about sense and sensus, and I'm going to give you other words that have this root in it.